Sorry, 30 seconds. Or yes, doctor.
Good afternoon once again, and thank you, Brother Alvin, for inviting me to speak. And thank you all for joining this session. Like I've just mentioned, I'm increasingly enjoying these health sessions where, whether it is presenting or organizing a forum or a panel discussion, I'm learning so much because to present, I have to read and learn for myself. And in doing so, I'm remembering things better for longer, and by sharing with others such as yourselves, I'm remembering it longer and helping me to put it into practice as well. I'd like to welcome all of you for this session, those who are on YouTube as well. Today's topic is one of my favorite things to do, that is sleeping. And we're going to talk about sleep. I'm no expert on this. What I'm going to present now is what I have read and what I've studied and what I've learned. Let us pray before we start. Gracious Father who art in heaven, we thank you so much for this day that you've given. We thank you for the Sabbath and the blessings that come with it. We thank you for the sermons that we've heard. We thank you for the songs that we have sung. And we thank you for the blessings of life. Thank you for the freedom of worship. At this time, as we contemplate for a little while about sleep, how important the sleep is for our health and for our well-being. May we understand and may we take this as a challenge, as a responsibility to look after our health in sleeping well and sleeping in a healthy way. Please be with all of us as we learn and as we interact, and may it be a blessing to each one of us. We give honor and glory for the knowledge that comes from you, from the science and from the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. Forgive us sins and shortcomings, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. So today's topic is sleep. Like I said, I'm no expert. I've been reading and I've been reading to prepare to present for you. Somebody said, I love sleep. My life has the tendency to fall apart when I'm awake, you know. So it's when you are awake, you do certain things which are not right things. So but I love sleep. My life has a tendency to fall apart when I'm awake. I'd like to ask a few questions as well as I go along, just to keep you interactive. What do you call a person who's awake in the nights? Anybody can answer. We call it some being. Anybody? Alvin?
Insomniac.
Say it again, please.
Insomniac.
Insomnia is somebody who can't get to sleep is insomnia. It's a medical condition, we say insomnia. Somebody said a night bird, you can say night owl. But what I'm looking for is
Nocturnal.
Nocturnal, yes.
Nocturnal. Yeah.
Nocturnal. Nocturnal. Well, there comes another question then. And what is the opposite of nocturnal? Just to keep you interacted, really. It's called
Normal.
What did you say?
Normal.
Normal. I like that answer. It's diurnal. D-I-U-R-N-A-L. Okay, nocturnal and diurnal. Among all of you, who likes to sleep? I can see a left hand there. Yeah, all of us like to sleep. And actually the ones who really like to sleep are sleeping now. They're not here in the meeting. I like to sleep, and I think sleeping is a good relaxation. And one author said, laugh and the world laughs with you. But when you sleep, if you're sleeping and snoring, you'll be sleeping alone. He says, laugh and the world laughs with you, snore and you'll sleep alone. And Benjamin Franklin has said, early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. It's a very, very popular, very well-known statement. early to bed and early to rise makes a man not just healthy, not just wealthy, but wise as well. Benjamin Franklin. For those of you who are slightly older, not the children, but the adults, let's look at our own childhood. I was born in a very small town, and we did not have electricity in our home till I was in 8th standard, year 8. Till I was in year 8, we didn't have electricity in our home. Okay? And as young children in early teens and all that, we used to play so much physically that we were so tired by the end of the day, and we used to sleep really well. And Alvin and the others, I'm sure you remember the days when you were playing marbles and all sorts of games, so physical games that you were tired by the end of the day, and you were so engrossed in playing that your mother had to call you for food. Come have lunch, come have dinner, it's time to have a shower, time to do this, time to do that. And those of you who studied in the boarding schools, I'm sure you can recall that the lights were put off at 9:30. The lights were off at 9:30, and you woke up in the morning at 6 o'clock, and a bell rang and you had to wake up. And usually the dinner was about 5:30, and it felt quite early because if you stayed up late to study, you used to feel hungry. And if you wondered why those times were fixed up by somebody, there is a method in the madness. Why you had to sleep early, why you had to wake up early, why early dinner, and all these things were there for our own good as students, as youngsters, and as adolescents waking up and preparing for our lives. Now, who can tell me what a circadian rhythm is? What is a circadian rhythm? Simple terms, nothing science. I'm sure you have heard about this. Circadian rhythm is an internal clock that we have in our bodies, which kind of helps us to keep up when to sleep, when to wake up, when to do what. It's a clock that is internal in our bodies. That's what a circadian rhythm is, okay? Now, if I ask you a question, can you catch up with sleep over the weekend if you haven't slept enough during the week? If you are too busy with your homework, or if you're busy with your assignments and projects, and if you don't sleep well in the day, in the week, I mean, can you catch enough of sleep in the weekend? Would that help? It helps to a certain extent, but it cannot really help you in the long term. So the next question to ask ourselves is, am I getting enough sleep? Well, if you're sleeping in the church, or if you're sleeping in the lectures, that means you haven't slept enough in the night. You're not getting enough sleep. Some people talk in their sleep, but the preachers talk while other people are asleep. How do you know if you're getting enough of sleep? So to basically know if you're getting enough of sleep or not, you actually need a sleep assessment by an expert. But then there are a few simple questions that we can ask ourselves as a rule of thumb, and then we can decide for ourselves whether we are sleeping enough or not. Number one, after waking up in the morning, can you go back to sleep by around 10 or 11 in the morning? You wake up early in the morning, 6 o'clock or half 6, 7, and you wake up in the morning, do a few things, but can you really fall back to sleep at 10 or 11 in the morning? And if your answer is yes, that means you haven't had enough of good sleep, or the quality of sleep was not good enough. You might have been in bed for 8-9 hours, but your quality of sleep was not enough. Question number two, for those who drink coffee and tea, can you function optimally without caffeine before noon? Or by the time you are at work by 8 o'clock, do you need a brew? You need a coffee? Do you need another coffee at 11 o'clock? Coffee is a self-medicating to treat yourself for sleep deprivation. but you actually are making it worse by drinking coffee and keeping yourself awake. So that's the second question. The third question, can you wake up without an alarm clock? If you cannot wake up without an alarm clock, that means you haven't slept enough. The body wants to sleep, but alarm clock is what is waking you up. That means you haven't had enough sleep. So these three questions, after waking up in the morning, can you go back to sleep by 10, 11? Or can you function optimally without caffeine or chocolate or hot drink, something like that? And the third question, can you wake up without an alarm clock? So if these questions are answered, then you have the answer to know whether you're sleeping enough. The health experts say sleep is as important as exercise and diet. Exercise is very important, diet is very important, and sleep is as important as exercise. Leonardo da Vinci has said, a well-spent day brings happy sleep. This is one of the other reasons you don't fall asleep. You either eating inappropriately or you're not waking up early in the morning. And if you haven't done enough hard work in the day, then you will not get sleep. So a well-spent day brings happy sleep. Or another saying which says, a ruffled mind makes a restless pillow. So if your mind is ruffled, and if you have monsters in your mind like jealousy, hatred, envy, unforgiving nature, any of these can make a restless pillow, a ruffled mind. Sometimes people may feel there are monsters under my bed, but then there are monsters inside the heads. Sometimes when you keep these things, jealousy, hatred, envy, unforgiving nature, if we keep those things, that will not help us sleep. One other health expert said, 3 meals plus bedtime make 4 sure blessings in a day. 3 meals and bedtime make 4 sure blessings in a day. Let me take you to my early days as a doctor. I have studied in Vellore in India, and Vellore is one of the difficult places to work as a doctor because the workload is quite a bit. So when you're an intern or when you just finish your MBBS and first year you're working as a junior doctor, our working hours were very, very long. So our working hours was like this. Monday, go to work at 8 in the morning and you do an outpatient clinic till 5, 6 in the evening with a short break for lunch, maybe 20 minutes. And then if I'm on call on that day, then I take calls from the A&E as well from 8 in the morning, work throughout the night. Any patients that are referred to our department, I have to go attend and treat them, manage them, and keep them ready for the following morning, 8 o'clock, with all the notes written properly, with all the drug charts written, with all the blood results ready at hand to present at a grand round the following morning. And the grand rounds went on till 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's a Monday morning, 8 o'clock you start, you do a clinic till 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, then you take all calls from A&E, and literally I did not have sleep whole Monday night, and Tuesday morning I had to be ready to present all the patients, make sure they're all treated well, and make sure they have the up-to-date treatment, they have all the blood tests and all the scans, everything, and I need to have the results at hand, and present each patient the following morning at the grand round. The grand round will have all the consultants from the department, then the nursing staff will be there, there will be postgraduate students, there will be medical students, and you're standing there, you have to present. And then the day did not finish till 2, 3 o'clock. And then once the grand round was finished at 2, 3 o'clock, you went on till about 7 or 8 in the evening because you had things to do for those patients again. So about 36 hours, you had no sleep. And if you asked me whether you wanted food or you wanted to sleep, I used to choose to sleep. I'm a person who cannot function very well without sleep. So that was my early days as a doctor. And that was the time I really questioned myself, oh, will I survive in this profession? Is being a doctor, is it something like this? But fortunately in the UK, it's not like that. The maximum you work is a 12 or 13-hour shift, and then you go home to sleep. You do not work 24 hours. So it's different now. So those of you who want to become doctors, don't think that is normal here. So here there are well-cultured hours rather than other places. Okay, when I say we are not sleeping enough, we're not sleeping enough in the night and all that. Let me admit that I have made mistakes too. Not too long ago, about 6-7 years ago, I think, I've met with friends and we were sitting all night and we chatted till 8 in the morning. Would you believe it? We chatted till 8 in the morning. So these are friends from medical school. We are together for 6 years and we were just chatting and chatting and chatting till 8 in the morning. I'm not telling you to do that because that's not the healthy thing. So I'm just only telling you that I have made mistakes myself, but this is to tell you that that's not the way, that shouldn't be the way of life. Now let's look at God's creation. God created day and night. There is day and there is sun and there is night, there is moon. And when God created, there was no electricity. God did not think it was necessary for us to have electricity. Electricity is what man has made. You don't see birds awake in the night because they don't use electricity. We depend a lot on electricity. We have gadgets and we have TVs and we have friends and we have all sorts of things. All the information, all the movies, anything that you want to watch is at your fingertips. And nightlife is talked about a lot in the Western world. If you are open to the news now and then, you do hear about young, high achieving individuals who are very rich and who have lots of money, who are at the top of their profession at a young age. You do hear about them that they are suddenly dead. They had a cardiac arrest in their 30s and 40s. They do that. And the culprit here is lack of sleep. Let's look at it more and more. For some of us can argue saying, oh, I like to study only at night. I do not like to study in the daytime because there is a lot of distractions. And there are some of you who can argue saying, I'm a morning person or I'm a night person. I cannot just wake up in the morning. And these are some of the things. Some of the things that I'm going to present, I may not be able to present everything today, but if I cannot present everything that I prepared, then I'll probably ask Alvin to give another time where he can present the rest of it. Okay. My source I'm presenting is from this book called Why We Sleep. Why We Sleep. And it is by a neuroscientist called Matthew Walker. This book was gifted to me by one of my registrars when he finished his 6 months posting. We talked a lot about health and sleep and all that, and he presented this book to me. So this is a neuroscientist who done a lot of research about why we sleep and what gives us good sleep and all those things about sleep, everything about sleep. And this is called Why We Sleep. Okay, that's the source of what I'm presenting. Some of us are very lucky. You can sleep anywhere and you can sleep for any length of time. But some of other people, they cannot sleep. If they go to a different room or different house, hotel, they cannot sleep. So we talked about the circadian rhythm. We talked about circadian rhythm. And circadian rhythm is an internal clock that all of us have. And it runs, the cycle is a 24-hour cycle. It's an endogenous, like how our heart rhythm is there, how we are breathing unconsciously, not knowing that we are breathing, how our heart is beating without us realizing it, without us putting any effort. Similarly, the circadian rhythm is an endogenous, self-generated rhythm that follows sleep, awake, work, and evening again, sleep. So it's a continuous rhythm which is endogenous somewhere in the brain. Let's look at that. in the northern hemisphere, when you look at the times of the year, at some time there is sun, like summertime, we have long sun from 4 o'clock in the morning till about 9:30 or even 10 o'clock at night. And in the winters, it's the opposite. We won't see the sun at 8:30 in the morning, and 3:30 it is dark. And it's the opposite for the southern hemisphere. I'm sure most of you have grown up in the villages and towns in India. You have seen this plant called Touch Me Not. How many of you have seen this plant, Touch Me Not? Yes, you touch it and the leaves close. Yeah. Now there's an experiment that's been done. So the name of the plant is actually, the scientific name is called Mimosa pudica. Mimosa pudica. So it's a small plant. You touch it, the leaves close, and then they open again. Touch it, the leaves close. There is another big tree. I don't know what you call in the other regions in India, but or in Africa or wherever. But in Telugu, we call it Nidra Ganneru. So this tree looks, towards the evening, the leaves close. It's a big tree. It's a massive tree. Massive tree. The leaves close. And then in the daytime, they're open again. It's called Nidra Ganneru in Telugu. But I'm sure you can look at it. So these trees or these plants sleep in the night. Okay. So in 1729, an experiment has been done by a French geophysicist in 1729. His name is de Mairan. So what he did is he took this plant called Touch Me Not, or the sleeping plant, and he kept it in the dark. He kept it in the dark for 24 hours a day for a few days. For a couple of weeks, he did that. And once in a while, he peeked to see if it was open or closed. And to his surprise, what he noticed was, if it was daytime outside, the leaves were open, even though the plant was in the dark. And the nighttime, the plant was closed, the leaves were closed. So he realized that the leaf had this property called heliotropism. Heliotropism is responding to the light. So helio is sun, heliotropism is responding to the light. So they all thought initially it was thought, okay, whenever sun is there, the leaves are opening. And when the sun is not there, they're closing. That's what the normal thing would be when you observe something like that. But when he did this plant and he put it in the shade, when he put it in the dark, even though it was dark, but daytime, the leaves were open, but the nighttime, it was still kept closed. Interesting, isn't it? So here we understand not just humans, but all other animals and even some plants, all these plants, they do respond to light, and the function of growth and the metabolism and everything is dependent on our sleep and our resting and all these things. Next question. What part of your life do you spend in sleeping? Okay, what part of your life? Give me a figure.
When you're much more younger.
When you are much younger.
It is
You sleep much younger. You sleep a lot more when you're younger. But then if you take 100 years, if somebody has spent 100 years of life, what part of the 100 years have they slept? Is it 1/5, the 1/6? One third. Yeah, thank you. That's correct. 1/3 of your life, you sleep. Imagine somebody who's lived for 100 years, or let's say 90 years, 30 years they have slept. That's the time, that's how much our body sleeps. Now, we have just talked about the Touch Me Not plant. I want to take you to another experiment in 1938. So after 200 years later, these two people did another experiment. So this is Professor Nathaniel Kleitman and Bruce Richardson. So these two guys, they did an experiment, but they did not use anybody else as guinea pigs, but they were their own guinea pigs. This is what they did. They went into a deep cave for 6 weeks. They took their beds, food and drink, and they went inside into a deep cave. And the cave was so deep there was no detectable daylight into that. They stayed there for 6 weeks. Other than at the end of 6 weeks, when they came out, they had a bit of a beard, but more than all that, they did not have anything else significant. They were still as healthy and all that, but maybe they needed a little bit of vitamin D. But then they have found a lot of striking scientific evidence with this study. So this is what they have found. They have found that they have spent 32 days in complete darkness, and they have made 2 groundbreaking discoveries. So number one, like the heliotropic plants, like the ones who respond to the light, we have our endogenous circadian rhythm, and even in the absence of light, the rhythm continues. So they have realized that they were sleeping exactly at the same time as they have slept when they were outside, and they had predictable repeating pattern of prolonged wakefulness and sleep. Wakefulness and sleep. So they were awake for about 15 hours and they slept for 9 hours. That is 24 hours. And the cycle was quite constant. It's quite constant. It was not haphazard. It was quite constant. So they went there purposely to see if the rhythm of sleep or wakefulness or body temperature would change erratically if they were in the dark. But then it stayed the same, although they were in the dark for 6 weeks. This is quite an interesting study, isn't it? Because from this we know that whether you're in the northern hemisphere at the North Pole or South Pole, your circadian rhythm, the time that you have to be awake and the time you have to sleep stays the same. So this is what they have found out. They have found that this 24 hours is the time for a circadian rhythm, and even when they were removed from the external influence, because it was all internally generated. So when I say the, what is the term that I used? Endogenous. Endogenous means inside. Endogenous means inside, and it is internally generated. So next look at further. So the sunlight manipulates and resets the circadian rhythm. So let's look at jet lag in a second, in a minute. Let's look at jet lag in a second. But then from this study, these two have concluded that the sunlight manipulates and resets the circadian rhythm, and it helps it to set it to every 24 hours. So every 24 hours, this goes that way. And the brain uses daylight for the resetting purpose. So whenever you go into a new time zone, the brain uses it and uses the daylight and resets your circadian rhythm. And the daylight is the most reliable and repeating signal that you can have anywhere in the world you go, and that sets your signal. But if you may ask, what about the blind? They're not seeing any light. They're not getting the daylight. How is their circadian rhythm reset? But the body has its own way, the mechanism, the brain has its way where it sets the circadian rhythm. So next question I'm going to ask is, what are the 2 types of sleep? When you sleep, there are 2 phases. Who knows that? There are 2 phases of sleep. Anyone? Suresh?
Rapid eye
Is it sleeping daytime and sleeping nighttime?
Good try. Good try.
Rapid eye movement.
And deep sleep and REM stage.
Yes, yes. REM stage and non-REM stage. So REM is rapid eye movement. Rapid eye movement. So in this stage, you actually are fast asleep and your eyes are moving. Your eyes are closed, but the eyeball keeps moving. This is rapid eye movement stage. And the other stage is non-rapid eye movement. So when you sleep for about 8 hours or 9 hours, every 90 minutes, there is REM sleep. So there is non-REM sleep for 90 minutes, and then there is a period of REM sleep which can be about 15, 20 minutes, and then the NREM sleep starts again. So the REM sleep is a time people have dreams. Okay, REM time is a time people have dreams. So those are the two types of sleep, not daytime and nighttime sleep. Well done. Okay. Now let's go into the brain now. So this clock, the circadian rhythm clock that we mentioned, is somewhere in the brainstem. Brainstem is nothing but, it's like a stem which connects the brain to the spinal cord. So there's a small, about that long part of the brain called the brainstem, just the size of my little, maybe it's less than my index finger. So that part of the brainstem, that's where the clock is. But it is quite close to the optic nerves. You know, optic nerve is a nerve from the eye. So there's one nerve from each eye. They go back and they connect together like this, called optic chiasma. Okay, so this clock is there in the brainstem, and it is called suprachiasmatic nucleus. Simply to say, it's above the chiasma. So chiasma is when the nerves come and meet like that, and that area confluence is called chiasma, and suprachiasma is the area above the chiasma. And this is a small one. It has 20,000 brain cells. Well, if you say 20,000 brain cells, it must be big, you would think, but it's actually quite tiny, because the brain has 100 billion cells. So compared to 100 billion cells in the brain, suprachiasmatic nucleus, which has only 20,000 brain cells, is very little. So this center, called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, is the central conductor of life's biological rhythmic symphony. So this is what conducts life's biological rhythmic symphony. So all the activities, the metabolism, the digestion, the cardiovascular system, the repair, the immunology, immunological system, all that is conducted, made sure that this clock is what makes it happen. Okay, that's a bit of science there. Okay, this center samples the light signal from the eyes. So early in the morning, when there is bright sun, if your window is open, even if your window is not open, if there's curtains or blinds, if there is outside light, even with your eyes closed, the brain is getting the signal from the light, and it is resetting its circadian rhythm. And it regulates many things. The circadian rhythm regulates many things. Wakefulness and sleep, when to wake up and when to sleep. The body temperature. All of you know that the body temperature goes down at least a degree 2 hours after you're asleep. It's the lowest. The body temperature is the lowest, and it's maximum in the afternoon. It's the maximum in the afternoon. Whether you sleep or not, it is there, and the temperature is the lowest in the night. But the temperature cycle also remains the same. It goes up and it goes down just after you are asleep, and it goes up again in the morning. Now you can talk about night owls or night birds, but there are two ways you can divide people who call themselves morning larks or night owls. Lark is a bird. Morning lark is a morning bird, or night owls. Another health scientist has said, a person who has not done 1/2 day's work by 10 o'clock runs a chance of leaving the other half undone. I'll repeat this. A person who has not done half of his day's work by 10 o'clock runs a chance of leaving the other half undone. It's not 10 p.m., it's 10 a.m. If you don't do half the work by 10 o'clock in the morning, the chance that you will do the other half is much less. Okay? You can tell yourself, I will wake up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I'll finish all my work before 10 o'clock at night. But that's not how it works. That's not how the body wants to work. Now, scientists also talk about people who kind of force themselves to be the evening types, who don't want to wake up in the morning. There are about 30% of them who do that, but then at the expense of the health. Okay, but then these people, the night owls, are looked at as lazy people, sleepy people, because they're sleeping in the daytime, they're sleeping in the odd hours. And these people can be very sleep deprived because they're not sleeping at the correct time. They might stay awake for long in the night and sleep for till 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but it leads to sleep deprivation, and it leads to many diseases. Now let's look at one hormone called melatonin. I'm not talking about melanin. Melanin is the pigment that we have in our skin. So I have a lot of melanin. My wife doesn't have as much. Okay, I have a lot of melanin, but we are talking about melatonin. Okay, we're talking about melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone, and this is called the hormone of darkness. At the back of the brain, at the bottom, at the base, there is a small gland called pineal gland. It's the shape of a pine cone. That's why it's called pineal gland, and it releases melatonin, this hormone called melatonin, and it raises in the evening around 8, 9 o'clock in the evening. It starts to go up, and it peaks around 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning and returns to the low levels in the morning again. Okay, after 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, when we wake up, it comes back to normal. So when this hormone is raised, that means it's time to sleep. It is telling our body to please go to sleep. Okay, it gives us signals. We are yawning. That means the body is begging you to go to bed. The melatonin does not itself generate sleep, but it signals it and prepares the body, like bringing down the temperature slowly and making you breathe well and making you yawn, and all those things that it makes you do. And that's the time, that's the signal that it gives. The levels of melatonin decrease in the morning automatically, even when your eyes are closed when there is daylight. So you might think, I'm sleeping till 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, my eyes are closed, but the melatonin automatically comes down because it's time to wake up. That's how God made our bodies. And the pilots and crew members who do a long distance travel and who has very haphazard ways of sleeping and times, they take artificial melatonin because to help them sleep, but it has its impact on the body. Okay, let's look at jet lag. What is jet lag? Jet lag is, okay, jet travel, the aeroplane travel, the jet travel has really made it possible for us to go to one time zone to another within hours. And just the other day I read that with the super speed, supersonic jet or something like that, we can go to New York from here in 2 hours, which normally takes 7 to 7.5 hours. We can go to New York in 2 hours. So at such a quick time, we can go into different time zone. And because of the difference in time zone, there is a lag in the circadian rhythm, our body clock. So circadian rhythm, just remember it as a body clock. So with the use of jet travel, when there is lag in the body clock, it's called jet lag. It is worse when you go east than going west, because going west, you can stay awake a little longer. If you're normally somebody who sleeps at 10 o'clock, you can stay awake a little longer till 11 or 12 o'clock. It's easier to stay awake longer, but more difficult to wake up early. That's why it is worse, jet lag is worse when you're going east than going west. So it's easier to postpone sleep than to try to sleep too early. And the body thinks it's daytime in the new place because it's continuing to get those signals from the light, and the body is thinking that it's daytime in the new place. So if we are here in the UK daytime, but we go to either America or India, then the new place is different, but then it The body thinks that it's the old time, the time is the same as the old place that you went from. But body fortunately will not stay in that state forever, but it will adjust. But the jet lag adjusts only about an hour a day. It can only adjust by 1 hour a day. So if you're going to the America, which is about 5 hours away, it takes 5 days for you to really get used to the time zones there, and opposite. And unfortunately, after we go and when the body adjusts to it, it's time for us to get back. The jet lag places a torturous physiological strain on the brain. It puts a lot of stress on the organs and major systems in the body, and it stresses on the cells as well. There have been a lot of studies done on the crew who do long haul routes and they have little time to recover. I was watching a documentary, I think last year or the year before, where they were talking about how sleep is important, how the crew have difficulty recovering to the times. And they were talking about one of the reasons for plane crashes and mistakes is because of that. So some of the studies that they have done is this, and the studies have shown that the parts of the brain which is related to learning and memory, had physically shrunk in these people, suggesting the destruction of brain cells due to sleep deprivation. So if they're deprived of sleep, the part of the brain which is good for learning and memory has physically shrunk, and it's become so small. The second thing they found is the short-term memory was significantly impaired in these people who go on long haul routes and flights, and they become more forgetful. And there have been other studies done on shift workers, a lot of nursing staff and all these people who work shift patterns. They have been found to be higher rates of cancer and type 2 diabetes on these people, in these groups of people. Some of these crew members, they take melatonin pills, like I mentioned before. I have another question. What are the sleep experts called? You know, the doctors or the experts in sleep, what are they called? I'm resting my throat when I ask these questions. They're called somnologists. Insomnia, somno means sleep. Insomnia is lack of sleep. Somnologist is somebody who who specializes in sleep and all that. Okay, let's look at another, it's 10 to 4, so I'll probably take another 10 minutes. Let's look at another chemical or another hormone found in our body, and it's called adenosine. Adenosine, okay? It's called a sleep pressure hormone, sleep pressure hormone. So adenosine is something that builds up if we are awake for longer and longer periods. So the longer someone is awake, there is more and more buildup of adenosine in the body. And the concentration of adenosine goes up in the body, the more and more we are awake. So it's like something that measures how long we've been awake. So the more of adenosine in the body, the more we need this, okay? It's the same adenosine, those of you who know the adenosine as a medication, it's the same adenosine that they give for a heart rhythm called SVT, the very fast heart rhythm. To reset it, they give adenosine and the heart rhythm resets, SVT, okay? So the more adenosine, the more increase in desire to sleep. So the body is telling you to sleep. And it's putting up the pressure on the body to sleep, and it's forcing, and it's a force that determines when you should sleep. So there are wake promoting regions and sleep inducing regions in the brain. So there are regions which promote being awake, being alert, and there are regions in the body which are sleep inducing regions. So this melatonin and adenosine work like that, okay? These to work on these centers. When do you normally yawn? when you have the urge to sleep. And it is usually about 12 to 16 hours from the time you wake up. 12 to 16 hours from the time you wake up, because that's the time to take rest. Okay, we talked about adenosine, but the adenosine, although it keeps giving you the signals that you have to sleep, however, you can mute that signal with a substance that makes you feel more alert and awake. What do you think is it?
Coffee and chocolate.
Oh yes, caffeine.
Caffeine.
So caffeine is the most widely used and abused psychoactive stimulant in the world. Most widely abused psychoactive stimulant in the world. Did you know that it is the second most traded commodity in the world? Second most traded commodity in the world. The first one being oil. Not the cooking oil, but the oil that goes in our cars. It is the longest and the largest unsupervised drug, caffeine. Longest and largest unsupervised drug. So nobody can ask you, how much have you taken? You're taking too high a dose. And how frequently you're taking, nobody looks after that, because the moment the body tells you to take coffee, you're taking coffee. I'm hopeful that 99.9% of the people here don't take coffee. I'm glad with that. So caffeine takes the place of adenosine. So there are receptors in the brain where the adenosine acts, and caffeine takes that place of adenosine and blocks those receptors. Therefore, it blocks and inactivates the receptors, acting as a masking agent. It makes you feel that you are awake. You are alert and awake. And it's like, although there is a lot of, when there's a lot of noise, what do? We close our ears to the sound. We're just closing our ears to the sound, but the noise is still there. So the body is still asking for you to go to sleep, but then by taking caffeine or chocolate that comes from caffeine that comes from chocolate, we are blocking that, what the brain and what the body is asking for. So caffeine tricks you into feeling alert and awake despite having very high levels of adenosine. Let's look a little bit more in detail about caffeine. Caffeine peaks at 30 minutes after consuming it. So once you consume it, it takes about 30 minutes to peak. But the problem is with coffee, the half-life is 5 to 7 hours in the body. So it persists in the body for a long time. So whenever you talk about any medication, the pharmacologists would talk about half-life. Half-life is nothing but the time the body takes to get rid of half of that medicine is half-life. So if you look at coffee, it takes about 5 to 7 hours to get rid of half of the coffee that you drink in that period, 5 to 7 hours. Some people might metabolize it quicker, but some may not metabolize it as quicker. It depends on the enzyme. So if you have a cup of coffee at 7 p.m., half of the coffee is still there, or the caffeine is still there at 1 p.m. And if you're struggling, why you're not able to sleep, you know the answer. This is for the coffee drinkers. I'm sure that none of us drink coffee. So sleep will not come easily or smoothly if coffee is taken. And all of you know, caffeine is found in coffee, tea, chocolate, ice cream, energy drinks, weight loss pills, and even painkillers. Cough syrups, okay? Next time you look at a cough syrup that you're taking, it has caffeine and it will not help you sleep. And one more thing about decaf. Decaf does not mean non-caf. It's not completely without caffeine. Decaf has still 20 to 30% of the caffeine as a normal one. So decaf is not completely without caffeine, still has 20 to 30%. So there's something called caffeine crash, like how when coffee goes down, the alertness goes down. Then people who are working, people who are very motivated to work and be successful and all that, it's like having batteries down and the energy levels plummet very rapidly and they cannot function and they cannot concentrate. they feel sleepy, and they want another cup of coffee. In another 2 hours, they will have another cup of coffee. And the dependency cycle keeps going on. So the dependency is the body needs more and more coffee to have the same effect. Even if you think about alcohol, somebody who drinks alcohol first time, 2 pints of beer can make them drowsy. But then somebody who goes on drinking, they need to drink a lot more, or even the stronger drinks, to have the same effect. That is what dependency is. Okay. So energy drink is also the same. So to have the same effect of the same amount of alertness, they need to continue to go on drinking tea and coffee. So they keep saying, oh, I need sugar, I need a brew, my head is aching and all those things, but the body actually needs sleep. So to close off this caffeine topic, there was a study done on spiders. All of us know, I'm amazed sometimes the way the spiders can, make the spider webs. I'm not talking about the Spider-Man, I'm just talking about the spiders. They're beautiful, the webs are beautiful. And if you see after a dew, you can see the webs very beautifully. In the 1980, there was an experiment done by the NASA on the spiders, because they wanted to make sure that the people who are going into the space are alert and all those things. And they wanted to make sure that they wanted to study the effect of caffeine, LSD, amphetamine, and marijuana on the spiders. So they have given these drugs in small doses to the spiders, and the spiders became incapable of constructing a proper web. In this book, there's a picture which shows a picture of the spider webs when they have had caffeine, when they had LSD, when they had amphetamine and marijuana. So it is so surprising to see how coffee and all these things have impact in our life. In our life. Let me see if I can get that picture. Can you see that picture? So that picture on here, it is showing the normal spider web, but the rest of the spider webs, you can see how bad they are. That's under the influence of all those drugs. So much science talks about sleep. So there is so much to talk about sleep and health. So what I would want to do now is I want to stop for now because it's 4 o'clock and my throat keeps drying up. I would like to give you some tips about sleeping well. There is a lot of science into how the sleep affects your cardiovascular system, why high-achieving young adults have sudden cardiac arrest in their 30s and 40s, and how these things help, not help, they cause diabetes, cancers, and all that. There's a lot of science to sleep and the cause of all these things. I'm going to talk about maybe next time, including Alzheimer's and dementia. We have looked at how lack of sleep causes the brain size to come down because of lack of sleep. We have seen it in the crew members, we have mentioned on that. So next time, whenever we meet, I'm going to talk about the effects of not having sleep on the general health, diabetes and all these things. I would probably just talk briefly about how the effect of sleep on health. So if you look at the sleep and health, in short, just remember this: the shorter you sleep, the shorter your life. The shorter you sleep, the shorter your life. Just remember that. When you don't sleep, it's like a burst water pipe. If there's a burst water pipe in my bathroom upstairs, it doesn't just stay in the bathroom. It leaks into the living room, into the bedrooms, and into the kitchen and everywhere. So same way, sleep can affect every major system, every major tissue and organ in the body. It can cause heart disease, obesity, dementia, diabetes, cancer. All of these things have causal links to sleep deprivation. Immunity, reproductive system, metabolic system, all these things. I'll give you a briefly snippet about cardiovascular system, how it affects, but I will cover it next time as well. In 2011, a study was done on 500,000 men of different age, race, ethnicity, and they have looked at how progressively shorter sleep they had. So they had very, very shorter sleep, and they have progressively checked them for a few years, and 45 of these people had increased risk of developing or dying from a heart attack within 7 to 20 years from the start of the study. So going back, let me explain this. So they started doing the study long time ago, but 2011, they have published it. 500,000 men from different age, race, and ethnicity, and they looked at the effect of lack of sleep it had on their health. So 45 of these people either developed a heart attack and died, or had a heart attack within 7 years, or from 7 years to 20 years from the start of the study. There was another Japanese study. Japanese are much, much more hardworking people. One of my colleagues has gone for a conference to Japan, and he said he saw Sunday people very busily going here and there, and he asked some people where these people are going in uniform. So I believe it was said that they are going to the workplace to keep everything ready for Monday. So they're very, very hardworking people, and this study is done in those people. 4,000 male Japanese people, and it is a 14-year study. And it looked at people who slept 6 hours or less. And it showed that they had 500% more likely to suffer at least one or more cardiac arrests. So lack of sleep is an independent risk factor for heart disease. So heart disease, we talk about diabetes, family history, hypertension, high cholesterol, and all these things, obesity and all that. But lack of sleep is an independent risk factor of heart disease. And another study has shown that after the age of 45, people who sleep less than 6 hours a day, there is a very high risk of heart attack in those people, around 45 years of age. So people in the middle age, well, I still call myself young. Anybody who's 10 years and older, anybody who's 10 years older to me are still young. So I'm still very young. So after 45, we must prioritize sleep in midlife. Unfortunately, 45 is a time, or 40 is a time when people are at the peak of their careers, and they want to spend a lot of time in their careers, and they want to do the best for their family and take career to the next level and all those things. But in doing so, if you're spending a lot of time without sleep, it takes a toll on our lives. And also we do exactly the opposite. What our body needs, more sleep, we don't do that. We sleep less and less, and we may earn more and settle the family, etc., but everything comes at a cost. The best time to sleep is we need to have at least 2 hours of sleep before midnight. At least 2 hours of sleep. The best time to sleep is at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, get up at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, that's the best time to wake up. Somebody who's such a very, very enthusiastic rich man who wants to be very rich, who's into earning, he says, sleep is such a luxury which I cannot afford. Sleep is such a luxury which I cannot afford. Sleep is not a luxury. Well, sleep is a luxury, but we have to afford it. Now, at the end, I want to give some tips for sleeping, tips for healthy sleep. There are 12 of them. If you haven't listened to anything, please listen to this. 12 tips. stick to a sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time each day. Sleeping later on weekends won't fully make up for a lack of sleep during the week and will make it harder to wake up early on Monday morning. Set an alarm for bedtime, not for waking up. This is talking about set an alarm for bedtime. Make sure you know when to go back to sleep. Don't make it 9 o'clock one day, 10 o'clock another day, and 12 o'clock on Saturday. Especially the danger of sleeping in the afternoon now is you won't be able to sleep till late tonight, and tomorrow you'll get up late, and tomorrow night you won't be able to sleep very late, and then Monday morning you won't be ready for work. So set an alarm for bedtime so that you can go to bed at the correct time. Often we set an alarm for when it's time to wake up, but fail to do so for when it's time to go to sleep. If there's only one piece of advice you remember, this is it. Number 2, exercise is great, but not too late in the day. Try to exercise for at least 30 minutes on most days, but not later than 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. Because when you exercise, your body is still very awake. For the same reason, if I've gone to a friend's place, maybe in Birmingham, and if I come back at 10 o'clock in the night, my body is awake because I'm driving, adrenaline is up, and then I won't be able to sleep immediately after I come home. So for the same reason, don't exercise for up to 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. Number 3, avoid caffeine and nicotine. Coffee, colas, certain teas, and chocolate contain stimulant caffeine, and its effects can take as long as 8 hours to wear out fully. Therefore, a cup of coffee in the late afternoon can make it hard for you to fall asleep at night. Nicotine is also a stimulant, often causing smokers to sleep only very lightly. Again, I'm sure that there's nobody sitting here who smoke. In addition, smokers often wake up too early in the morning because of nicotine withdrawal. So the nicotine is gone from the body and it's asking for more nicotine. Number 4, avoid alcoholic drinks before bed. Having a night, okay, I'm going to skip this. Next one, avoid large meals and beverages late at night. A light snack is okay, but a large meal can cause indigestion, which interferes with sleep. So our dirty old Indian habit of eating at 9 o'clock and sleeping at 9:30 is a very, very wrong habit. And that's why we were given food at 5 o'clock in the evening in the boarding schools and in Spicer College, Alvin. Drinking too many fluids at night can cause frequent awakenings to go to the toilet. So don't drink too late, too much water, too many fluids. Number 6, if possible, avoid medicines that delay or disrupt your sleep. Some commonly prescribed heart, blood pressure, and asthma medications, as well as some over-the-counter and herbal remedies for cough, cold, and allergies can disrupt sleep pattern. If you have trouble sleeping, talk to your healthcare provider or a pharmacist. Number 7, don't take naps after 3 p.m. Naps are excellent for good health and longevity. People who live in blue zones, they do take naps, but not after 3 p.m. Blue zones are the areas in the world where people live long time. So don't take naps after 3 p.m. Naps can make up for lost sleep, but late afternoon naps can make it harder to fall asleep at night. Number 8, relax before bed. Don't overschedule your day so that no time is left for unwinding. You work for 5, 6 in the evening. When you come back, you have a shower, eat something, and then you have to relax, read something, speak to a friend. A relaxing activity such as reading or listening to music should be part of your bedtime ritual. It should be a ritual, it should be a constant, regular thing. Number 9, take a hot bath before bed. The drop in body temperature after getting out of the bath may help you feel sleepy, and the bath can help you relax and slow down as you're more ready to sleep. So after you take bath, the body cools down as the body, after you dry yourself up, and then that will help you to sleep. This another important thing. Number 10, dark bedroom, cool bedroom, gadget-free bedroom. 3 things: dark, cool, and gadget-free bedroom. Get rid of anything in your bedroom that might distract you from sleep, such as noises, bright lights, an uncomfortable bed, or warm temperatures. You sleep better if the temperature in the room is kept on the cool side. A TV, cell phone, or computer in the bedroom can be a distraction and deprive you of needed sleep. Having a comfortable mattress and pillow can help promote a good night's sleep. Individuals who have insomnia often watch the clock, but make sure there's no clock in the room. Number 11, have the right sunlight exposure. Daylight is key to regulating daily sleep patterns. Try to get outside in natural sunlight for at least 30 minutes each day. If possible, wake up with the sun or use very bright lights in the morning. Sleep experts recommend that if you have problems falling asleep, you should get an hour of exposure to morning sunlight and turn down the lights before bedtime. So the room lights, you should turn it dim before bedtime, half an hour or 1 hour before bedtime, so that you can be able to go to sleep. Last one, don't lie in bed awake. If you find yourself still awake after staying in bed for more than 20 minutes, or if you are starting to feel anxious or worried, get up and do some relaxing activity until you feel sleepy. The anxiety of not being able to sleep can make it harder for you to sleep. So one easy thing or one nice thing to do is reading books. Reading books which will relax you, will help you to sleep. There is so much more to tell you, but it's over an hour now, and I think you have probably saturated me talking for an hour. I hope it's been useful, and like all of us know, rest and sleep is one of the important things that we need for our bodies. And as even the Bible has so many things talking about sleep and gives so many advice, but then it is everything that we know, everything that we can be taught, unless we put it into practice, unless we actively do it, we will not be able to benefit and get the benefit out of it. Especially the young people who are maybe still studying and all those things. It's better to be awake in the day than to stay awake at night. Better to be alert and do the things in the daytime rather than staying awake in the late hours in the night. Thank you once again for this opportunity. Thank you, Alvin. God bless you all.
Dr. Shyam, thank you so much. I think this is one of the detailed study that we have gone through. I really personally enjoyed it. I personally took a lot of information. I think the lockdown kind of didn't help many of us. Lots of people have lost the cycle because they're not going through the pattern. I think probably it's a good time that we're able to pull the chain and say that we got to get back to our routine and rhythm and not to spoil our health. So I think it's time. If you don't mind, Doctor, I'm just going to open to the floor. If they have any questions, they could ask at the moment. I think it looks like you have kind of closed the session, probably yet to cover some things. I'm sure we could catch up again to see if you're able to do that in part 2.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do it because I haven't gone into the real way of how sleep affects different systems in our body, like our cardiovascular system and dementia, how it affects and how dreams are helpful and things like that.
Sure. I think that would be really helpful. I think this, as I said, I mentioned before, the lockdown has caused a lot of damage to many people. The mental health issues, and to add to that, the sleep pattern, especially for the children. I wish the children and the youth were part of this as well, which I will be sending this across to them because it's now recorded on the YouTube. So I'm sure many would be benefiting from this. I'm sure part 2 will be helpful too. I'm now going to request the participants on this session. If you got any questions, please. We will push it for another 10 minutes. We won't go longer than that. I think we made Dr. Shyam to speak for more than an hour now. So we'll just give him for next 10 minutes. I'm sure we could keep our questions for next time. But if you've got any questions now that you want to ask, please do so this time.
Good afternoon, doctor.
Hello, good afternoon.
I've noticed that as soon as I get up first thing in the morning, and especially in the winter time when we put on the light, I start sneezing and get hay fever symptoms, and sometimes it can be very severe. And the minute I put off the light, I'm fine. But even in the summer with the sunshine coming in, I have this problem. But no doctor is able to help me out in this.
Right. So the moment you started asking the question, I thought you probably have some allergy. But if it is related to the light, I'm not sure what it is, because do you have a carpet in your house?
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, some people can be quite allergic to the dust that settles in the carpet. So I'm not. Probably it is the allergy to that. But if it's a relation to the light, I'm not able to understand, because if it is very bright light, maybe the dust, because the room can get warmed up, and maybe the dust can come up from the carpet, and that's why it might be maybe causing you the sneezing and all that.
I mean, when I put off the light, then it's calmed down again. The minute I put on the light again. So I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Thank you, doctor.
Doctor, I have a question, doctor. I personally believe the normal function of the body is sleeping in the nights. But we healthcare workers, nurses, doctors, and other staff, we are forced to work in the nights. And does it really affect so much in our lifespan? If so, is there any remedy, or how can we protect ourselves?
I think most of us in this country, especially with both wife and husband working, and especially having young children, it is very difficult. It is very difficult because we don't have our extended families for us to get help from, and therefore it's very difficult. So what I tell some of my close friends is, as soon as the children are old enough that you don't have to stick to night shifts, you should move on to days. That's what I tell, because like I've read quite a bit of this book. I haven't finished reading it, but then there is so much damage that we can do to our health by not sleeping in the nights. But it has an impact on breast cancer, and it has so many other things. Maybe next time I might be able to answer this question, because we need to get around this problem of not being able to sleep at night. I think we need to have a sleep pattern and have a definite time pattern so that we can sleep, even the ones who are doing night shifts and all that.
Thank you, doctor.
I have one question.
Yes.
When you eat, hi doctor. When you eat rice, and you get, after a couple of half an hour, you tend to get very sleepy. Is it because of eating of rice, or what is the cause of that?
I still remember when I was in medical school, afternoon we used to have rice, sambar, yogurt, and I used to put banana and some sugar in the yogurt. So all that is a lot of food. I think the way we Indians eat a lot of rice and we eat full meals, we don't have so much of vegetable and so much of salad, and we don't have a lot of fiber in it. So there's a lot of calories that we put into our tummy. So because of the amount of load that goes in the tummy, all the blood gushes to the tummy, because it's kind of working on the digestion. So there's less blood in the brain. So I used to find extremely difficult to stay awake in the afternoon lectures. I think that's the reason. All the blood is shunted to the tummy, and because body has to digest the food, and there's less blood going to the brain, and that's what causes sleep, I think.
So it's wise to eat vegetables in the afternoon.
Yes, I think so. Some salad, not maybe a cup of rice, but not not full plate of rice like we normally do. A short
Okay.
walk, a short walk maybe of help.
Okay. So I just want to know, very curious, why it happens.
Okay. Any further questions? We just got another minute. We take another one more question if anybody got. Okay, I think Dr. Shyam very clearly mentioned that we could able to go through how our body gets affected. I think we talked about the cardiovascular issues, and we also talked about the dementia, and you also mentioned about the Alzheimer's. I'm sure those things can be really helpful. I think Brother Suresh did ask a very valid question. As we work, I think most of the our members work in the health sector. They do have night shifts and day shifts mixed together. I think those things are very key, and we got to work through how we could manage and get enough sleep and get our clock back on. So I think that's going to be very useful. So we're going to work through with Dr. Shyam and see if we can get another time where we could bring back again some of these things into that session. So Dr. Shyam, thank you so much. I think you would probably see that in the messages that has been put in the chat group. I think many of us did say that the session was very informative and interesting, and it's a great blessing. I'm sure many would be able to follow. I know some of our members who do enjoy the Sabbath afternoon nap. I'm not sure whether they do that every day during the lockdown time, but I'm sure we could probably come out of that and be more active. And that is not only just for the benefit of anybody else, but more benefit to our own health. So that's very useful to us. I'm just thinking, is anybody else got any question? If it's not, I'm going to request, I think I can see Dr. Bobbin was on the group. Can I request Dr. Bobbin if you could kindly close the session with a prayer, please?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shyam, for this very informative tips on sleeping. I think many of us ignore sleep because, the work and other parts of our life eat into sleep. I think we should stick to what you say. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Shall we pray? Oh, dear Father in heaven, we thank you for this time you've given us to come together the Sabbath afternoon. We thank you for the message that has been brought to us. Dear Lord, we understand that you have made us as very complex human beings with a lot of systems in our body, and all of them are supposed to function so that we can work well for the benefit of human beings. Dear Lord, help us not to ignore the health laws. Help us to be able to understand them and to abide by them so that we can have a healthy life and prepare ourselves for your soon return. We thank you for Dr. Shyam and his ministry. We pray that you will continue to bless him and that he'll be a blessing for everyone. We ask all this in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Thank you all once again. Please remember, it's too late to take a nap now. It's already 4:25. Those in India can go to sleep. Those in the US can have a nap maybe.